Good morning, students.
Morning, Miss.
Two minutes. The folder is getting a little bit late to open. Okay, so most of the time, this time will not be like last semester. I will be taking almost all the topics for this particular subject. So this therapeutic skills 2 is a continuation of your therapeutic skills 1. Okay, so it is you need to you cannot just forget the therapeutic skills 1 and go into the new subject because whenever we ask question there will be a lot of questions from all the previous things also because in therapeutic skills 1 you have learned something called assessment like your MMTE, goniometer, limb length measurement, girth measurement, all these are assessment. Okay, so as nothing will be there without the assessment. So you want to do the assessment, then only you can go into the treatment part. Okay, so that's why you cannot forget therapeutic skills 1. You have to, it is just a continuation of therapeutic skills 1. Is it clear? Then another thing I want to explain is, so if you, whenever, for example, when a patient is coming to you, the patient will be coming to you for a particular function cannot be done. So for example, the person is not able to climb up the stairs, the person is not able to do combing because overhead activity is affected. Okay, so the person is not able to uh, do his day-to-day life activity, like the person is not able to eat. So like this, the patient will be coming to you with difficulties in their function. So function means nothing but any activity they will not be able to perform. So that one, that is called as function. Is it clear? So when a person is coming to you like that, so you are supposed to assess what is the problem. So assess what is the problem. So for example, a person is coming to you with difficulty in climbing up the stairs, then you need to see whether the range of motion of hip and knee is normal or not. Okay, so for that you will be using goniometer. Then you will be assessing the muscles, that is hip flexors, hip extensors, knee flexors and knee extensors, whether the muscle power is normal or not. Okay, then you will be assessing something called end field to find out whether the problem is there in the joint pathology or not. So all these are assessment. So after assessing, then you will come to a conclusion. The problem is in the joint, or the problem is in the muscle power, or the problem is the person is having muscle tightness. So once you come to that particular conclusion, then only you will be going with the treatment. Okay, so now this therapeutic skills is you are going to learn another 10 techniques. So previously you would have learned around seven techniques, I guess. So now you are going to learn another 10 techniques that will help you to improve all these. So when a person is coming to you with difficulty in performing the movement, means either the problem will be reduced range of motion or reduced muscle power, or the person has some joint pathology, or the person has muscle tightness of the opposite muscle group. So for treating all this four only, you are having many techniques to choose. Is that clear? I hope you would have got some idea. Is it clear for you?
Yes, Miss.
So for choosing that technique only, you are going to see some more. So when a question is coming, like a case scenario is given to you, the person will be having either of this four problem. Then you have to see for this particular problem what you want to do. What are the techniques that will help you to improve these techniques? Okay. So now, like I'll just give you a brief outline of the topics. So this therapeutic skills 2 is a 4 credit paper. Okay, so it is a 4 credit paper. Then we have 4 CLOs to follow. Okay, and you will be having a midsem test. Okay, just a minute. I think I have taken an older one. Let me take the new one. Okay, so this will be having um, okay, this particular subject will be having a presentation. Okay, and you will be having a mid-semester examination. Then you will have mid-semester OSCE, final examination, and final OSCE. So like other subjects, you don't have assignment. Instead of that, you have a presentation. Why do you have a presentation? Means here we have 3 CLOs. So one CLO is towards your knowledge and understanding, another CLO is your practical skills, another one is to check your communication skill. So since we are using to check the communication skills, we are going to have a presentation. Okay, so maybe later on I will give you the topics later, then you can prepare for your presentation, and we will be doing it maybe at the end of 8th week or 9th week. Okay, so almost all the Okay, we will try to complete before 7 weeks also, because after 7 weeks you might have another two subjects added. So that's why we will try to complete this little bit earlier. Okay, so these are the three assessments you are going to do. One is midsem final exam. These two are writing. Then you will have midsem OSCE, then final OSCE. Then you will be having a presentation. Okay, so topics, if you see, you will be having 10 topics. Soft tissue manipulation, it is called as massage, coordination, balance, PNF, then vertebral Maitland mobilization, hydrotherapy, aerobic exercise, then transfer and lifting technique, re-education of muscle strength and muscle activity. So these are the topics we are going to see in this uh, subject. Okay, so I hope like you already have the ebook, that is Caroline Kistner, isn't it? You will be already having Caroline Kistner, so I think I don't need to again uh, post Caroline Kistner. Do you want Caroline Kistner again? This Caroline Kistner is a book. Already it is there in the LMS in the therapeutic skills one. I hope you would have downloaded it. If you want again, then you let me know. Okay. Then other than that, I have one more ebook that I will be uploading in LMS. And I will be uploading the practical handbook now itself, so that you will get a good idea how to learn the practical aspects. So today we are going to see about hydrotherapy. This is a new, maybe a new technique for you. So once you are coming back to campus, we will be seeing this particular technique practically in our swimming pool. Okay, so presently we will be learning in theoretical aspect. So later on, I will be showing some videos and other thing. Okay, so later on, maybe you can learn. That is, whenever you are coming back to campus, then we will be learning this hydrotherapy in practical in our swimming pool. So you have two topics to be learned in person. One is hydrotherapy, another one is your suspension. Is that clear? So today we are going to see about hydrotherapy. So what is hydrotherapy? How many of you know about swimming? Or how many of you know swimming? Okay, one person. Only one person knows swimming. Okay, there are few. Okay, so like so people who know swimming will be knowing the power of water, or what we can see is you will be knowing what is the difference between the land and water, isn't it? So no problem, even if you don't know swimming, you can just see, you might have gone to beach in any point of your lifetime, isn't it? So how do you feel like when you stand in the water, and how do you feel when you stand in the land? So you imagine you are standing inside the water in the beach. So can you you can see, whenever you're standing in the water, you will feel some kind of force that is pushing you, isn't it? So in the beach, if you see, always the water will be trying to push you outside. Okay, and if you see, the water definitely has a different power, and water has a massive power to create or to distract. Okay, so that one you have to first you have to keep that in mind. Okay, then when you see, when you are like, when you have like, if you have any experience in standing in beach, or now if you get any chance, anytime, you can go and try to stand in the beach. So if you see that the water will be having a pressure that will be compressing your body. Okay, so that means the water has some kind of property, and they have analyzed this kind of properties, and they have tried to use the property in treating the person. Okay, so water definitely has some kind of property, and or you can say the power, and that power is used to either create or destroy certain things. So in therapeutic side, they have find out or they have analyzed this particular powers, and they have trying to use this particular things to this particular property in the therapeutic side. Okay, so today we are going to see what are the properties of water and how we can utilize that particular the properties in our therapeutic side. Okay, so first thing is, what is this hydrotherapy? So use of water that facilitate the application or that facilitate the therapeutic intervention is called as aquatic exercise, or you can also call it as hydrotherapy. Okay, so hydrotherapy means the water has some properties, and we use that particular property to do some stretching, to do some strengthening, or to do some of the exercises. So that is called as hydrotherapy. In other words, it is also called as aquatic exercise. Is it clear? Okay. So what are the properties that can be used for this purpose means, one is buoyancy, hydrostatic pressure, viscosity, and surface tension. So these are the four properties that water is having, and these four properties we are using or we are utilizing for our therapeutic purpose. So first let us see what is buoyancy. So buoyancy means upward force that works opposite to gravity. So whenever you stand inside the water, you can feel the water will be pushing you upwards. So even if you are standing in the beach, you can feel the sand under your feet will be keep moving, and there will be some pressure that will be just pushing you upward. So your feet, yeah, you cannot stand in the water without some pressure applied to your feet. You need to put pressure, otherwise it will be keep on pushing your feet upwards. Okay, so if you don't have experienced this now, like today, you can try to experience either in your bathroom, or if possible, you can just go to a beach alone and just to try to experience this, or maybe beach or maybe swimming pool anywhere, and try to experience. Or if you have a big bucket, then you fill water and try to experience this. Okay, so if you put anything inside the bucket of water, you can see that particular object will be trying to float, or the particular object will be trying to push upwards. Okay, so if you keep your feet or if you keep your hand inside the bucket of water, there will be some force that will be pushing your hand upwards. Okay, so you can try today and see how this about this particular property. So this is called as buoyancy. So definitely there is an upward force that is acting inside the water, and this upward force is totally opposite to the gravity, because gravity always try to pull yourselves towards the floor, but buoyancy will try to push you out of the floor. Okay, so this buoyancy will be always equal to the volume it is displaced. That means if you fill a bucket of water, and if you try to push a ball inside the bucket of water, the water will be displaced outside. And if you measure the water, the volume of the water as well as the volume of the ball will be equal. So that is called as Archimedes principle. Okay, so that is a property. The buoyancy is that is a property to explain the buoyancy. So you would have learned this principle in physics. So that means whatever body is trying to getting immersed in water, the water will be like displaced, or the whatever water that is displaced outward, or whatever water that is coming up will be equal to the weight of the body. Okay, So, how we can use this buoyancy in the therapeutic purpose? So, first thing, we know that the buoyancy will be pushing out, or the buoyancy will be pushing the body upward. So, that means you don't have a gravitational force to control you. Okay, so inside water you don't have a gravitational force to control you, because there is something called as buoyancy. Okay, so whenever a person needs to stand up, he needs to stand up against gravity. So that's why we need more muscle power to stand up against the gravity. So when this gravity is not there in the water, people with very lesser muscle power also will be able to stand or able to do the activity in water. This is because they don't need to act against gravity. They don't need to protect themselves against gravity. Is that clear? So this buoyancy provides something called weightlessness. So that means it doesn't, your body, if you want to stand inside the water, you need very, very less muscle power compared to standing on the land. So this property is the first one which we will be using for the clinical purpose. So since the buoyancy is acting there, you have very less pressure inside the water. So the patient with very less muscle power will be able to stand and do the exercises inside the water. Okay, so this is the first point. Second thing, so the buoyancy will always act upwards. Okay, so we can use this buoyancy as an assistive device or as a resistive device. Okay, so how to use this as an assistance means, if you position the patient inside water, for example, the person is not able to lift the hand. Okay, so the person is not able to do shoulder flexion. So on assessing, you found out that the person is having some reduced muscle power, and that's why he is not able to lift the hand against the gravity. So this particular patient, you make them to stand inside water and ask the person to stretch the hand. So once the patient stretch the hand, the buoyancy will automatically push the hand upwards and will help the person to do elbow flexion, help the person to do shoulder flexion. Okay, so you imagine a person standing inside the water till the neck level and stretch the hands. So once you stretch the hands, automatically the hand will be pushed upwards. Is that clear? So the hand will be pushed upwards. This is because the buoyancy is pushing the hand upwards. So we use here the buoyancy as an assistance. Okay, so when you have a lesser muscle power, then we can use the buoyancy as an assistance and do the movement. When you want to improve the muscle power, then you can also use the buoyancy as a resistance. That means you need to do the movement against the buoyancy. So when the buoyancy is trying to push upwards, if you do opposite to it, then it will become a resistance. So when you do the movement against this resistance, this will help you to improve the muscle power. Is that clear? Okay. So buoyancy is a water property that will be pushing upwards, or that will be always forcing upwards. So we use this buoyancy for our clear therapeutic purpose, to give either assistance or to give as a either a resistance. So assistance can be given if we are doing the movement along with the buoyancy. It can be used as a resistance if we are doing the movement opposite to the buoyancy. Is that clear? Okay, then next is, so when you are giving assistance and resistance, you can also increase the resistance or decrease the or increase the assistance. So you would have learned about this particular concept in your range of motion exercises. You have something called active exercise, active assisted, active resisted, and resisted. So if you give resistance, that resistance have to be keep on increased, then only you will be able to improve the muscle power. If you are giving assistance, the assistance also can be slowly reduced so that the person is able to do the movement by himself. So there are other ways to increase this assistance or decrease this assistance. So if you want to increase the assistance, then you need to do the things in long lever. Long lever means, for example, you want to improve shoulder flexion. Okay, so you want to improve shoulder flexion. So what you do was you make the person to stand inside the water at the neck level. Then you stretch your hand, that is with elbow extension, you make the person to stretch the hand and do the movement. So when the person is doing the movement with elbow extension, then it is called as long lever. Okay, so the shoulder flexion is done with elbow extension. So that is your long lever. So while doing assistance, when you do in a long lever, the assistance will be increased. Okay, then when you do the same thing for resistance, then the long lever, in the long lever, the resistance also will be increased. Okay, so this adjustment of the assistance and resistance can be done by adjusting the levers. So either with the long lever or with a short lever. So when you do with the short lever, the assistance also will be less, the resistance also will be less. So when you do in a long lever, the assistance also will be increased and the resistance also will be increased. Okay. So not only that, if you want to further increase the assistance or increase the resistance, you can use something called floating materials like a weight cuff. So in land, we will be using a weight cuff or a dumbbell to increase the resistance. But inside water, you have to use this long lever, you have to use this floating material to increase or decrease the assistance or increase or decrease the resistance. Is it clear? So if you use a floating material along with the buoyancy, then you are increasing the assistance. If you are using the floating material against the buoyancy, then you are increasing the resistance. Is that clear? So these are the things that you will be using to either increase or decrease the assistance and resistance. Do you understand? Because it is something related to physics, maybe it is little vague for you. So I wanted to take this particular topic at the morning, so that's why I took today. If you want me to repeat, then I can repeat. So do you understand the first property?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
So next property is called as hydrostatic pressure. So hydrostatic pressure is, so you can all try this today in your bathroom. You fill the bucket with water, then you try this. Okay, so when you fill the bucket and try to put your hand, automatically the hand will be lifted upwards. So that is your buoyancy. Okay, first property. Second property is hydrostatic pressure. That is, if you force yourself inside the water, you will feel some pressure in all the direction. Okay, so when you are standing inside the water, or when you are keeping your extremity inside the water, you can feel a pressure, and that pressure will be exerted in all the direction. Okay, so this pressure is called as hydrostatic pressure. And this pressure we can use to reduce the swelling. So for example, if a person is having edema in his extremities, maybe because of problem with vascularity, maybe because of problem with any other thing, if the person is having edema in his limb, then you can ask the person to stand inside the water. Automatically this hydrostatic pressure will be giving more force in all the direction. So when it is giving more force in all the direction, automatically the edema will reduce. How it reduce means the pressure will be pushing all the edema towards the heart. and it will be either lead into the blood, or it will be leading into the lymphatic drainage, and it will be drained outside. Okay, so whenever you are immersing an object inside the water, there will be pressure that is exerted in all the direction, and that pressure will help you to give the compression effect. So we use this compression effect to reduce the edema or swelling of a particular extremity. So because of any problem with the vascularity, because the blood flow is not proper, there is a block or something, the person is not able to push the blood towards the heart. But if you make that particular person to stand in the water, this hydrostatic pressure will be giving a compression, and it will be pushing all the blood towards the heart. Or if the person is having like effusion, then the swelling, then the edema, then the fluids is pushed towards the lymphatic channels, and it will help you to reduce the edema. Is that clear? So this is the second property. Then another thing, because of the buoyancy and other things, the hydrostatic pressure will be higher at deeper surface. So that means when you stand in the water, you will have more hydrostatic pressure at the feet when you are comparing to your hip. Is that clear? So this is because as you go deeper and deeper, the hydrostatic pressure will be higher and higher. Okay. So so this will help you to reduce the edema from the lower extremity to the upper part. So this will give a gradual compression. That means more compression at the feet, then little lesser above, lesser above, lesser above. So because of this, all the fluids will be rushed towards the heart, or all the fluids will be rushed towards the lymphatic channels. Okay, so this is the second property we can use in the therapeutic purpose. So next is called as viscosity. So viscosity is the thickness of the fluid. Okay, so that is called as viscosity. So if you feel like water has very less viscous compared to oil. Okay, so if you take oil in a bowl, and if you take water in a bowl, put your fingers inside and see, there will be more viscosity in the oil compared to water. Okay. So how this viscosity occurs is, the viscosity is nothing but the friction between the molecules of water, or friction between the molecules of liquid, which will help you to uh, which will help you in resistance to flow. Okay, so if the resistance and the viscosity will be always opposite to each other. That means when the viscosity is high, that is the thickness, or when you touch the material, you will feel some amount of thickness, that is called as viscosity, that you will feel in oil. So when the viscosity is higher, then the resistance to flow is less. So if you see, like if you keep your feet on oil, how fast you will fall down, how fast you will be skidded. So if there is a oil and if there is a water in the floor, if you keep your feet on oil, it will be pushing you, or it will be having very less friction. So you will fall down very easily compared to water. Okay. So the more viscous, then very less resistance to flow. Okay. So water has a little bit lesser viscosity compared to oil, but it has more viscosity compared to land. Is that clear? So water has less viscosity compared to oil, but it has more viscosity compared to land. So that's why in water, the resistance to flow will be little easy compared to land. Okay, so the resistance to flow will be little bit easy compared to land. So we use this this in the therapeutic purpose. Okay, so what you do is we will be using this water to give all sort of active exercises, active resisted exercises, and other things, so that the person will be able to do little bit easily compared to land. Okay? But if you want to increase the viscosity, you can increase the viscosity of water. How to increase the viscosity of water? You can add something like, you can add oil to it, you can add the force, you can add a what to say, like you can see like how the washing machine works. So when the washing machine spins, what will happen? The water will be turbine here and there, isn't it? So when you add a turbine inside the water, the water will be moving in a faster speed, and this will increase your resistance. Okay, so this will give you a resistance for your movement. So this will increase the viscosity. When it is increasing the viscosity, the resistance to move against it is also will be difficult. Okay, so like this one, this is a third property which we will be using in the therapeutic purpose. So water has a particular viscosity. It is higher compared to land. Sorry, it is higher compared to land. So it has some. It will be giving you some friction whenever you are moving inside the water. But compared to land, it will be more easy. Compared to oil, it will be difficult. So this property we will be using in a clinical side, like you increase the viscosity so that you increase the resistance to flow. So you increase the viscosity, so you increase the resistance to flow inside. Okay, do the movement inside. So how to increase the viscosity? You can use any other, you can add any other fluid inside. You can use a turbine to increase the speed of the water and movement of the water. Okay, so if I want to explain you very easy, simple, the difference between uh, getting immersed in a bathtub and in the swimming pool and in the beach, how much resistance you feel in a bathtub, in a swimming pool, and in the beach. So you can just compare. So in the beach, if you see, the resistance will be very, very higher. That is because the water flows in a very higher, in a higher speed. So that's why the viscosity is higher, and you have more resistance to overcome. But if you, the same thing is little lesser in swimming pool. Okay, but if you do the same thing, if you get if you just lie down in a bathtub, it will be very, very lesser, isn't it? So that is the difference between the viscosity. So when you are increasing the water speed, then the resistance also can be increased. So like in a beach. Okay, you got an idea?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so to make you understand only, I'm repeating in different ways. Okay, so if you don't understand, you just stop me and let me know. So next is called as surface tension. So surface tension is, so the water will have a tension or a resistance in the surface. So you need to, if you want to get immersed in water, you need to overcome that particular tension. So in the surface, the water will be having some kind of resistance, and if you want to overcome, you need to overcome that particular tension. Then only you will be able to get inside. So for example, if you take a bucket of water, put a ball over the surface, the ball will be floating. Why the ball is floating means because the ball doesn't have the resistance to overcome the surface tension. In the same water, if you put a stone, then the stone will go inside. Why the stone is going inside means because the stone is able to overcome the surface tension and get immersed. Okay, or else you can say the stone has more weight, so it is able to overcome the surface tension and it is able to go inside. Is that clear? So same thing, if you want to do any movement or if you want to do the exercises in water, you need to have some kind of resistance, or you will be having some kind of resistance at the surface. So the person have to overcome the surface tension to do the movement inside the water. So this particular property, we take it as a resistance equipment. Okay, so what you do is, if a person is need to improve the muscle power, so you make them to stand inside water in such a way that the hand has to come outside the water, then go inside the water. So that the surface tension will give a resistance, and this resistance will act as a resistance exercises to that particular person. You understand? So surface of any liquid will have a tension, and a person, if or any object or a person, if it needs to get immersed, means it has to overcome that particular tension, then only it will be going inside. So we use this surface tension as a resistance object. Okay, so whenever you have you need to improve the muscle power, or whenever you need to give a resistance exercises, you can use the surface tension as one of the resistance exercises. So what you do is, you make the person to stand inside the water, then you bring the hand outside and again ask them to take inside. So when they are doing this, they will be doing against buoyancy, as well as they will be doing it against the surface tension. So this will give them the resistance to overcome. Okay, same surface tension, you can also use it as an assistive device. So if you want to use it as an assistive device, then you have to try to bring the hand uh, from inside. You just try to bring the hand upwards. So this will, the buoyancy also will give assistance, as well as the surface tension also will give assistance, and will make the hand to float in water. Okay, so these are the 4 properties which we will be using for our therapeutic purpose. So not only this is called as physical property. Okay, so in water we have lot of properties. Water has a thermal property, water has a physical property, and water has a hydrostatic property. Okay. So first 4 things whatever we have seen is called as physical property. So we can use this physical property to increase the resistance or decrease the resistance, or give assistance or give resistance. So next what we are going to see is hydromechanics. This is a different property which is a combination of physical as well as fluid property. Since water is a fluid, it has this hydromechanic property. Okay, since water is a fluid, it has this hydromechanic property. That means it combines a physical as well as a fluid property together. Okay, so this is, for example, if you see, you take a bucket of water. Okay, you take a bucket of water, you put a small leaf on the bucket, sorry, on the water. So the leaf will be slowly moving in the water, isn't it? So the leaf will be slowly moving in the water. Now what you do is, you take a stick and you just spin the water. Okay, so you take a stick and you just spin the water. So what will happen to the leaf? It will be moving very fast, isn't it? So initially you put a water in the bucket, you put a leaf, or you put a small rubber ball or a plastic ball in the water. So the ball or the leaf will be just floating in the water, and it will be moving in a very slow speed. Okay, so when you spin the water, what will happen? Because of the increased turbulence, the particle will start to move faster. Okay, so the particle will be moving faster. At the same time, it will be dragged here and there, isn't it? It will not move in a sequence. But initially, when you don't spin the water, the particle will be just moving in a sequence, in a circular form or in a straight form, like a small circle. Since it is in the in the bucket, it will be just doing a small circle. It will be moving slowly in a very small circle. Okay, but when you spin, what will happen? It will be moving very fast. At the same time, it will not move very in a circle, or it will be dragged here and there. Okay, so this is called as mechanics. So whenever you want to have a very smooth movement, then you don't give any turbulence to the water. Okay, so when you don't give any turbulence to the water, so the patient will be able to do the movement very smoothly without much of problem or without much of resistance. Okay, but when you give a turbulence or when you give a spin to the water, then the person needs to overcome more resistance. So he needs to have like that is the difference for you between standing in a swimming pool and standing in a beach. So if you want to stand in a beach, you need to have more power, more resistance, so that you try to stand erect in a beach. But at the same time, you need very less pressure when you want to stand in a swimming pool. Is it clear? Why? Because the turbulence in the beach is different. The turbulence in the swimming pool is very different. At the same time, the turbulence in the bathtub is very, very less. Is it clear? So that is the difference. So if you want to give more resistance, then you can increase the turbulence so that the person needs to overcome more of resistance. If you want to give more of assistance, then you don't give any turbulence or you reduce the turbulence. Is that clear? Okay. So when there is no turbulence, the particle will be moving very slowly in parallel with the water molecule. But when there is a turbulence, the particle will be dragged here and there. Okay, and it will not have the parallel movement. It will be just keep moving here and there. Is that clear?
Yes, miss.
Next is the water has another property called as thermodynamics. So depends on the temperature of the water, the effect of water also will differ. So when you are standing in a very cold water, what will happen? You will freeze, isn't it? So but the same cold, we can also use it for our therapeutic purpose. Whenever a person has any strain or sprain, we give them something called cryotherapy. So you will be learning in your electro later on in this semester. So we give some cold therapy so that the particular healing takes place properly. Okay, so and same thing, whenever a person is having pain, you give something called hot pack. There is heat. So you would have heard like when you have any pain or anything, your mom will ask you to take bath in very hot water. Or after taking bath in a hot water, your body will feel more relaxed, or more the muscles will become more relaxed, isn't it? So when you do any sports or anything after that coming back, if you take in a very hot water, you will feel more relaxed. So that's why that is called as thermodynamics. Okay, that is thermal property of water. So each temperature has some kind of effect. So we can increase the temperature or we can decrease the temperature to make use of that particular effect. Okay, so either you can decrease the temperature or you can increase the temperature, so that according to that you will be getting the benefit from the water. So normally, have you heard of this hot spring? It is there in Bali.
Yes, yes.
Yes, miss.
So like if you see like the temperature will be more than 45 or 48 degrees, and we won't be able to go in the main pool. But they will channelize the hot water in different pools, and they reduce the temperature by mixing cold water. So even if you normally if you see people will be going to that place by night 10 o'clock. Okay, so if you see night 10 o'clock only, the people will start to go inside and they will be enjoying the temperature till morning 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Okay, so Why? Because in daytime, if you go to the pool, it will be more hotter. So that's why they go in the night. Okay, so different pools will have different temperatures. So you can enjoy the difference and you can enjoy the benefit by that. So this thermodynamic property, we can use it for our therapeutic purpose. So for therapeutic purpose, you need to maintain the pool in between 27 to 35, because if it is lesser than 27, then it will have a lot of other side effects and it will increase some central problem. Okay, if it goes beyond 35, that also will be affecting your body, and it will lead to a lot of dehydration, and the person will faint inside the pool itself. Okay, so the normal temperature the person will be able to do in pool is 27 to 35 degree. Okay, so you need to maintain in between these two so that you get the benefit of the temperature. And most of the time the pool will be in, pool means like we I'll show you the picture. So we have the hydrotherapy pool, and it will be maintained at 33 degrees, because that is the most beneficial temperature of water. So that will be giving a good result for musculoskeletal pain, musculoskeletal spasm and other things. So most of the time they will be maintaining the pool at 33-degree temperature. But if they can go down till 26. Okay, but below 27 if they go, then it will lead to cardiovascular problem. Okay, so for each and every effect, that means if you want to give relaxation, if you want to reduce the muscle tightness, if you want to reduce the muscle spasm, if you want to reduce the like pain, then you have to use the pool between 33 to 35. That will be giving a good result. But if you want to improve the cardiovascular training, that means if you want to do aerobic training inside the water, then you should maintain the pool between 26 to 28, because that is the in that particular temperature your cardiovascular system will be able to exercise at the maximum, and this will help you to increase the stroke volume and reduce the heart rate. Okay? So you will understand this particular point when you learn about aerobic exercise. Is it clear? Okay. So if you so each temperature has an effect, and according to the need of the person, we can increase or decrease the temperature. So normally the pool will be maintained between 27 to 35. If you want to go with the a problem with the musculoskeletal, then you increase the temperature. If you want to give cardiovascular training, then you reduce the temperature. Okay? So when you increase more than 37 degree, what will happen? The cardiac output also will increase. Then the core temperature of the body also will increase. The core temperature means every human body has a core temperature to maintain, isn't it? What is the core temperature? What is the normal temperature? Our body will be maintained in 98.4. So in case if the person is if the person is standing in a very higher temperature, then his body core temperature also will increase. This will lead to dehydration, and this will lead to a lot of other problems. Okay, so that's why you should not go beyond 37 degree. Is that clear? Okay. Then next is, if you go less than 27 or less than 25, it definitely will affect your normal core temperature. Okay, so you can just feel, that is, if you are in a hot place, your body temperature will be little bit higher compared to normal. But if you are going to Genting, or if you are going to Cameron, if you test your body temperature, it will be little bit lower. Okay, but it cannot go beyond that. If it is going beyond that, then the body has to maintain itself. Okay, so the body has to produce lot of metabolism, and it will maintain the core temperature. So when you are standing in temperature lesser than 25, the body will be have to undergo a lot of metabolic activity, and it has to maintain the body temperature. If it is not able to maintain the body temperature, then the patient will faint. So that's why you should check the pool temperature properly so that it doesn't go beyond 37 or it doesn't come lower than 25. Exactly. So this is your thermostatic, thermodynamic property. So water has three different property: physical property, hydromechanic property, and thermal property. We use all these three properties for our clinical purpose. So this is the picture of hydrotherapy. Like you can see here, so it is a bigger pool. So it is made up of glass so that when the patient stand inside, you can observe from outside also. Okay, but normally we don't do that. Okay, if you like, we have a hydrotherapy pool in SP hospital, and it is also there in Alostar hospital. So once you go for the clinical placement, you can see that you can get training at least once in that particular hydrotherapy pool with the patient. So, but in SP hospital, the pool is not in functional level, but in Alostar, the pool is functioning. So this is a bigger water tank kind of. So it will be minimum of 5 feet or minimum 5 feet, and it will be increased to 12 feet. Because for aerobic exercises and all, you have to immerse in water and do the exercises. So it will be from 5 to 12, it will range from 5 to 12 feet. Okay, so the it will be having a glass so that you can view the things from outside. In Alostar, if you see, they would have just immersed this in the underground, and they had made the walls of glasses, so you can walk outside and you can observe the patient very clearly. Okay, this is called host. Host is where you can just move up and down. Here it's like a crane, so you can attach the wheelchair here, and you can just lift up and immerse the patient inside the hydrotherapy pool. Since this hydrotherapy pool is used for many neurological patient, so they have a lot of other attachments. Okay, so this is called as host, and this can be lifted, increased or decreased in height. It can be moved outward or moved inside. Okay, so it has of different shape. You can see here it has a chair kind of, so that you can move out, make the patient sit here, then move inside and dip the person inside. Okay, so this is called as host. So apart from that, it will be having staircases. It will be having a hand railing so the patient can walk inside slowly. It will be having chair which can be height adjustable. It can go down or it can be lifted up. Not only this, like you have a lot more equipments that can be used inside the hydrotherapy pool. So if you see here, there are a lot of railings kind of, so where you will be able to hold it and you will be able to do the exercise. Okay. So we will see the other things that is needed, that is used in the hydrotherapy pool. Maybe I'll give you some 5 minutes break. So now the time is 9:20. We will meet by 9:30. Okay, so don't log out. Just you can get up, stretch yourself. If you want to drink something, you can go drink and come back. I hope everybody would have had a breakfast. If not, you have in this 10 minutes break. Don't take long time. Okay, just 10 minutes break.
Yes, Miss.
So again, when we are seeing the practical part, I'll show you some of the other equipments that we will be using for hydrotherapy. So now we will see what are the goals, or as I said, like earlier, whenever you take one particular technique, you will be having, you can just make a table or column. You will be having definition, then you will be having its effects and uses, then indication, contraindication, and the procedure. So you can just make a tabular column and you can put all the techniques so that you can have a good idea about all the technique in one tabular column. Okay, so you start preparing like that from now on. So first we have seen what is the definition, and this particular technique, since it is a different mode of excising media, we have something called properties. Okay, so you can use you can also write the effects and uses based on that. Now we are going to see what is the effects and uses, or what are the goals of that particular this particular technique. So effects and uses means how it is helping the person to do, or what are the if the person is doing that particular technique, what is the use of that use, that is called as effects and uses. So first thing is it can facilitate ROM exercises. I think you know what is ROM exercises. ROM exercises are that exercises which helps you to improve the range of motion. It is of different types: passive, active, active assisted, active resisted, assisted resisted, like that. So this particular hydrotherapy will help you to facilitate all the type of ROM exercises. So that means you can do passive movement, you can do active, active assisted, active resisted, assisted resisted exercises inside this hydrotherapy, so that it will help you to improve the range of motion. Okay, so that is the first effect. Second is it will help you to initiate the resistance exercises. So for example, if you want to do the resisted exercises, you will be using a manual resistance, or you will be using a mechanical resistance like dumbbells, weight curves, TheraBand, all those things. So when you are starting the resisted exercises, what will happen is, first thing is, the patient will find it very difficult, because doing it in land is already they have to overcome the gravity, then they have to overcome the resistance you are giving. So the muscle have to work very harder. But the same thing if you're doing in the water, since it doesn't have gravity, the initiation will be very easy. It will not affect, or it will not damage the muscles or muscle fibers. Okay, so the initiation will be very easy, and the initiation will be very safe also. So you can give the same resisted exercises inside the water with using the water property, and along with that you can also have some kind of resisted equipments, and you can do the exercises inside water. The next is it will help you to facilitate weight bearing activity. For example, if a person is not able to stand because he doesn't have good muscle power in legs. So if in the land, if the person needs to stand, means he should have at least muscle power more than 3. Then only he will be able to stand, because that is only against gravity the person is able to do the movement. But the same thing inside water, with a little lesser muscle power, the person will be able to do standing and do the weight bearing activities. Okay, so that will help you to facilitate the weight bearing activities. Then it will help you to enhance delivery of any manual technique. Manual technique is manual stretching, manual resisted exercises, or peripheral joint mobilization, anything like the enhancement will be, that means enhancement of the delivery will be easy if you do after the hydrotherapy. Okay, so for example, you can do the stretching inside water also. Okay, so after doing a hydrotherapy session, if you are doing a peripheral joint mobilization, it will be very easy for you as well as for the patient, because the pain will be very less. Okay, so the delivering of any manual technique will be easy, and will be enriched by this hydrotherapy. And inside water, you will be having all 3-dimensional access to the patient. Even if you're making the person lie down also, you can just imagine. So this is a seater, same thing, you can also have a stretcher or a cot kind of, where you will make the person lie down. So even if you're making the person lie down also, you can access the person from downwards. Okay, then from upwards, then from sidewards, any direction you can access. That means it will be giving you a 3D effect. So all the direction you will be able to access the patient. That means like give exercises or touch the patient or give any technique you want to give in all the directions. But in case if you are doing in land, when you make the person to lie down in a cot, what will happen? You cannot do from downward. If you are doing from downward, it will be touching the cot only. It will not give the effect on the patient. Okay, but here you will have a three-dimensional access. Then this will facilitate cardiovascular exercise. You will be able to do a good aerobic exercise inside water. One thing is the cardiac, there is blood circulation will be very good because of the hydrostatic pressure. So the hydrostatic pressure will give the compression and it will set right the circulation, and the heart will be receiving a good amount of blood, venous return, and this will help you to maintain the cardiac fitness. Okay, so the aerobic exercises doing on the land and doing on water is will have a tremendous difference. Okay, so inside water you will be able to make them more fitter compared to land. Then initiate any functional activity will be very easy when you are doing in land, in water. Then minimize the risk of injury or re-injury during rehabilitation. So inside in the land, when you're doing, if you're giving a dumbbell and asking the person to do the, if the person is not able to lift that particular weight, what will happen? Some of the muscle fibers inside might get injured, might get broken. Okay, but in the water, this kind of injuries and all we will be able to overcome. Okay, for example, if you're doing a jogging, suddenly you are sedentary for a very long time, suddenly you get up and you want to jog. Maybe the government has allowed jogging now, so you want to go out and jog. So when you jog and come back, you will have little bit of muscle soreness. The next day morning, what will happen? You will have more DOMS, that you will not be able to stretch your legs at all. It will be so much painful. Okay, but all those things will be very much minimized in water. So if you do a water jogging, you will have a very less injury and re-injury, so that you won't have much of muscle soreness and DOMS on the next day. Okay, so that's a major benefit of this hydrotherapy. Then it will enhance the patient relaxation. Okay, so these are the effects and uses of hydrotherapies when you are comparing with land. So all the therapeutics effects are there even in the land exercises. It is not that it is not available, it is there in the land exercises also. But in water, this will be having a greater benefit compared to land. Next is what are the indication. So for what are the patients you can do this hydrotherapy? Whenever you want to improve the range of motion, then you can use hydrotherapy. Whenever you want to increase the muscle tone, if the muscle tone is very flabby, whenever you want to increase the muscle tone, then you can use it. Whenever you want to reduce cardiopulmonary whenever you want to improve cardiopulmonary endurance, then you can use this. Okay, it is not reduce, it is increase. Okay, I'll change and give you. Then whenever you have, so when a person is having reduced range of motion, you can use this hydrotherapy, and that will help you to improve the muscle range of motion. When the person is having increased muscle tone means spasm or tightness, increased muscle tone, then you can use this hydrotherapy to reduce the muscle tone. Okay. Whenever you have reduced cardiopulmonary endurance, then you can use hydrotherapy to increase the endurance. When you have a reduced functional activity, then you can use this hydrotherapy and you can increase the functional activity. Okay, whenever you have any muscle weakness, then you can use this hydrotherapy and improve the muscle weakness. So these are the conditions in which you can use hydrotherapy. Almost all the conditions are inside. Okay. Then what are the contraindications? So when you have more of indication, definitely you will have more of contraindication. So contraindication also is little bit higher compared to indication. Okay, so we will stop with contraindication today. So first is the if the patient has any cardiac problem, then you cannot take the person inside water, because inside water, because of the hydrostatic pressure, the circulation will be enhanced and there will be more pressure to the heart. It means more circulation will be rushed to the heart. The heart has to maintain the higher circulation. So already if the heart is weak, and you will not be able to uh, maintain. Suddenly the patient may give away inside the pool. Okay, so don't take any cardiac patient inside the water. Okay, like that. If the person has reduced respiratory function, then also don't take them inside water, because when you are taking them inside water, as I said early, the hydrostatic pressure will give the compression. Okay, so because of the hydrostatic pressure, all over the body, in all the direction, the pressure will be exerted. So you need to do the respiration against gravity. Normally in our body, respiration will be always towards gravity, or there won't be any resistance for respiration. So if you see, the diaphragm will be moving down, it will be going along with the gravity, so you don't need to do against gravity. Okay, the chest wall also will be moving, counterbalancing gravity. Okay, so you don't have any resistance for respiration in land. But in water, since they have hydrostatic pressure, you have to do against the hydrostatic pressure. Against the pressure compression, you have to do the respiration. So if the person is already having respiratory dysfunction, then if the capacity, maybe you would have learned this lung volume and capacity in physiology. So if the lung volume capacity is lesser, then don't do this. Don't take the person inside. They will not be able to do the breathing inside water. Then if they have any peripheral vascular disease, then don't take them inside, like varicose veins or any block in the vascularity or any other problem in the peripheral vascular disease, then don't take them inside, because the chance of getting bleeding or chance of getting busting will be very higher. For example, a blood vessel has a smaller block. So when you take the person inside the water, what will happen? Because of the hydrostatic pressure, the blood that is in the legs will be rushed towards the heart. So if the block is there, sometimes they will dislodge the block and move. Sometimes they will, if the block is harder, then the blood vessel will get burst in that. So you will lead to internal bleeding. So that's why if they have a severe peripheral vascular disease, then don't take them inside water. Okay, if the person has a danger of bleeding or hemorrhage, then don't take them inside water, because it will be, the chances are very high for the bleeding. Then during water, as the hydrostatic pressure increases, the circulation also increases. So when the circulation increases, automatically the blood flow to the kidney also will be increasing, and the kidney has to excrete more and more amount of fluid. So if the kidney is already damaged and if you are taking them inside, you are giving more workload to the kidney. So it may go for failure. So don't take them inside water. Patients who are not able to adjust to the fluid loss. Actually, inside water also, you will be having some fluid loss. That's why after swimming or after playing in the beach, you will feel more thirsty, because inside water also you will be losing water, or you will be sweating a lot. So this will lead to dehydration. If the patient doesn't able to adjust to the fluid loss, then don't take them inside the water. Okay. If the patient has open wounds, then any colostomy bag. Colostomy bag means if the person has any problem in the anus or the rectum, they will be putting a tube and a bag for collecting the motion. So that is called as colostomy. So colostomy bag or skin infection, then don't take them inside water. Skin infection, it will be spreading and it will be spreading to you also. Okay, then open wounds, since the hydrostatic pressure is there, because of the pressure there will be more of bleeding and it will spoil the pool. Okay, colostomy bag, again because of the pressure the bag may get open and it may come out and it may damage the pool. Okay? Then if the person has uncontrolled bowel or bladder, that means it is called as incontinence. Okay, so if the person has uncontrolled bladder and bowel, immediately the person will not be able to come out of the pool and go to the bathroom, rush to the bathroom. So these people accidentally will do in the pool and they will be spoiling the pool. So you need to be careful. Okay, then if the person has any waterborne or airborne disease, then don't take them inside water, because through water it will may spread, through air again it may spread to you, so don't take them inside water. If the person has uncontrolled seizures, then don't take them inside water. Seizures means fits. So suddenly there will be excitatory movement in the brain and it will lead to fits or severe movement. Okay, so if you take them inside water, if they have some kind of fits or some irritants will be stimulating the fits and they will collapse inside the pool, and it must be so difficult for you to carry them outside the pool. Okay, so these are the contraindications. You need to be very careful that you can avoid hydrotherapy for these kind of people. So next is, what are the precautions you need to take? First is, like, if the person has fear of water, then be very careful, because suddenly they may get shock and they may hold you very tightly because of fear. Then you will also not be able to come out of water and they will also fall inside water. So if the person has fear of water, take them slowly and make them used to the water. Don't take them immediately to the neck level water. Take them slowly, step by step, then remove their fear, then you give them the exercises. Then if the person has neurological, respiratory and cardiac problem, then you can take a lot of precautions, because neurological patients suddenly if they lose balance, they may fall inside water. So you need some helping hands, you need some assistants to stand nearby. Immediately they can rush and they can take out the patient. Okay, same for respiratory and cardiac problem. Okay, if they have small open wounds and small IV lines, then you need to take proper precautions and you can take them inside water. So these are the things, like you can give exercises, but you need to take precautions while giving exercises. Okay. So you will be able to give all the three exercises inside water. That is stretching, strengthening and aerobic exercises. So how to do this exercises, we will see in next class. Is that clear? So we can do all the three exercises inside water. So how to do this? Then we can. I will teach you in the next class with videos. Is that clear?
Yes,
Okay.
Miss.
Yes,
So
miss.
since the LMS is not created so far for you, mostly we will be doing by this week. So once LMS is created, then I will upload it. Is that clear?
Yes, Miss.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Yes.